Welcome to the second of 3 videos to support the New South Wales HSC Studies of Religion, Religious Tradition Depth Study on Judaism. The focus of this video is the marriage component of the syllabus. These videos are intended as one way to get a grounding in the expectations and content required for HSC examinations. Before moving into content, it's important to reflect on what BOSTES expects from this study. In setting the scene, the syllabus makes an important statement. The purpose of this section is to develop a comprehensive view of the religious traditions as living religious systems that link directly with the lives of adherents. The document then goes on to state, in a religious tradition depth study, the particular focus is on the ways in which the religious tradition as an integrated belief system provides a distinctive answer to the enduring questions of human existence. These statements in the syllabus give examiners scope to ask questions that are holistic, rather than focusing on a person, practice, or ethics. Therefore, the content about to be addressed needs to be constantly situated within the adherent's context. It needs to remain part of the whole, rather than being surgically removed and studied in isolation. Regarding the marriage element of the syllabus, BOSTES asks students to do 3 things: describe, demonstrate, and analyse. Applying the board's keywords, they are effectively asking for the characteristics and features of Jewish marriage. This could include both the ceremony and the practice generally. The second element asks us to show by example the relationship between the core beliefs of Judaism and marriage. And finally, they ask for the implications and relationships surrounding marriage both for the individual and the community. Therefore, this video will follow the 4 requirements that come directly from the syllabus. When we consider the Jewish concept and the ceremony of marriage, it can be addressed in 4 subheads. Initially, we should contextualise the marriage, and then consider the requirements and rules surrounding it. The actual process or phases of the marriage are perhaps the most significant element here, before concluding with some of the significant items that support the marriage process. The first commandment of the Torah is be fruitful and multiply. To understand its significance, a historical perspective is important. While the date and the authors of Genesis are subjects of academic discussion, approximate dates range in the vicinity of 5th or 6th century before the Common Era. While a precise date is not critical here, the point is that the text existed in a period where life was harsh. Life expectancy was short, and many children died before adulthood. Pregnancy was a genuine threat to the mother's life. Within this world, a religion would only survive through a significant amount of procreation. In a very practical way, the creation of many children was a very real and practical requirement for familial and religious succession. Marriage is then a prerequisite for this central mitzvah. Incidentally, mitzvah is the singular, while mitzvot is the plural. For these reasons, marriage and mitzvot are held in very high regard, almost as if the entire collection of mitzvah could be ranked in order of importance. In such a list, to be fruitful and multiply would be toward the top. Shifting briefly to another aspect of the Genesis text, we read the story of Adam and Eve, and specifically the creation of Eve. This story provides the scriptural context for the concept of beshert, which is the existence of a soulmate whom everyone is striving to unite. In the same way that Eve is a part of Adam, and their unity is more than out of a sexual desire, the modern Jew has a natural partner with whom their relationship is a unique and heavenly designed fit. The marriage grants emotional and spiritual fulfillment. It completes each person. The marriage, therefore, is more than just an earthbound legal relationship. It's more akin to the covenantal agreements between Abraham or Moses and God. A little later we'll deal with the marriage contract, or the ketubah. But it suffices for the moment to say that the marriage is designed by God. It's central to the Jewish faith, and it enables the continuation of both the family and the faith. Moving then to some of the rules surrounding Jewish marriage. Briefly, adherents must be 18 years old. The ceremony cannot be held on Shabbat or other significant Jewish high feasts. Divorce is possible under certain circumstances, as is remarriage. However, divorce is not encouraged or preferable. and marriage, of course, is a prerequisite to enable reproduction. The process of the Jewish marriage contains two phases. The first stage, Kiddushin, prohibits the woman to all other men, requiring a religious divorce known as a get to dissolve it. And the final stage, Nisin, permits only the couple to each other. Today these phases often happen in the same ceremony, however traditionally they could have happened up to a year apart. Prior to the ceremony, a religious contract, known as a ketubah, is signed by both parties and witnesses. Again, detail on this will be provided later. Similarly, the huppah will be dealt with in more depth shortly. However, it's the canopy under which the ceremony is celebrated. The couple are escorted to the huppah by their parents. The groom is escorted first by his father and new father-in-law, followed by the bride with her mother and mother-in-law. The bride will typically wear a white dress and a veil, imitating Rebecca, approaching Isaac in Genesis 24:65. Traditionally, the bride circles the groom either 3 or 7 times, reflecting different aspects of the Jewish marriage. Although a rabbi is not essential, a qualified leader is, and so a rabbi typically leads the blessing over the wine, from which the groom tastes, followed by the bride. It is customary for the groom to present the bride with a simple, unadorned gold ring, while he recites in Hebrew, "Behold, you are consecrated to me with this ring, according to the law of Moses and Israel." It's not traditional for the bride to exchange rings. However, many modern services include this aspect, especially in progressive movements. During the exchange, it's common for her to say, "I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine," which comes from the Song of Songs. Following the presentation of the ring, the ketubah is read and the 7 blessings are offered. The text of the blessings can be found in the Talmud, but the translation of those blessings is as follows. The final phase of the ceremony includes the breaking of a glass underfoot. While there are many theories and justifications for the action, the most significant and common theory is to reflect the hardships at a moment of great glory. This harkens back to the destruction of the Second Temple. At the conclusion of the public ceremony, the couple retire in a phase known as Yasid. Traditionally, it would have been an opportunity to consummate the marriage, but in the modern context, the couple take time in a private room to stop, to be with each other, and to break the fast that each had maintained throughout the day. Typically this may be in the office of a synagogue or some other similar space. Around 20 minutes later, the couple emerge to celebrate the wedding feast with their guests. The marriage ceremony itself has a significant historical and scriptural link. It's clear from much of the text that's used on the day that there is an unending link to both Israel and the prophets. While modern movements vary to some degree, the basic outline remains common. Elements such as who escorts the bride and groom, the wearing of a talit in the case of the groom, which is a prayer shawl, or mutual exchange of rings are the types of variations that exist between the different Jewish movements. In addressing some of the uniquely Jewish traditions and items associated with marriage, a good place to begin is the huppah. The huppah is a Jewish wedding canopy. It's held up by 4 poles, which can either be manually held by close friends and family, or it can be freestanding. Its purpose is to symbolise the new house which is being created through the wedding. The origins of the huppah can be found in Joel 2:16 or Psalms 19:5. As you can see from these images, Jewish weddings can take place either inside a synagogue or outside. Wedding rings are generally very simple gold bands. Traditionally, only the bride was presented with a ring. However, it's becoming commonplace in some movements for the groom to receive one as well. The ketubah is an ancient tradition, which is effectively a marriage contract. It outlines expectations for each of the parties in a range of domains and also covers what happens in the case of divorce. Originally, these documents were, at least in part, designed to protect the woman in the marriage, and in the case of divorce. In this way, it was far beyond its time when it originated in biblical times. We then move to the expression of beliefs. While there are a great many beliefs reflected in the marriage ceremony, an even greater number of biblical references can be found there, these 7 beliefs are worthy of particular note. Genesis chapters 12 to 17 sees a covenant established between God and Abraham, promising that Abraham would father many nations and descendants. The promised land is established in the same chapters. This covenant is fulfilled with each marriage and the resulting children. The action of marriage continually renews that promise. Similarly, a new covenant is established between the groom, the bride, and God. Through the marriage, promises are made and documented before and with God. These promises are recorded in the ketubah. It is said in Jewish theology that 40 days before the conception of a male child, a voice from the heavens announces whose daughter he will marry. This is known as a person's bashert. This concept of a soulmate can be found in the Talmud. A divinely designed relationship need not be faultless and can even end in divorce. However, a bashert should be a perfect fit. The marriage is a celebration of the union of the couple who were divinely planned to be together. In Maimonides' codification of the law, he identifies 613 mitzvot. These 4 mitzvot have direct links to marriage, and it's worth noting that marriage is held in such high regard that for a year after a wedding, men are expected to rejoice with his wife at home. This is not to say he should do no work, but rather he shouldn't be sent away on military operations or be expected to travel. A glass is placed on the floor, and the groom shatters it with his foot. This serves as an expression of the sadness at the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, and identifies the couple with the spiritual and national destiny of the Jewish people. Moving then to the significance for the individual. While civil marriages hold great significance for the individuals involved, Jewish weddings contain additional qualities for the bridal party. These additional areas of significance include gaining a deeper understanding of the faith, elevating the relationship, providing structure for the family, and relationship building with God. Prior to the commencement of any marriage ceremony is a period of formation and instruction led by the rabbi. This instruction helps both parties understand the covenantal agreement that they are entering into in marriage, as well as its significant place in the Jewish worldview. This opportunity formation leads to both the bride and the groom deepening their understanding of the faith, further enhancing the quality of instruction that they will in turn provide to their children. Marriage elevates the mundane to the supernatural. It's a means of contact with God, who is present at the ceremony. The recitation of the 7 blessings, for example, is designed to transform this particular couple as their love embodies God's creation, revelation, and redemption in the here and now. The marriage is the fulfillment of God's plan through the union of bashert. Historically, marriage deeply changed the lives and structures of each partner's life. While this is less the case in the modern world, one could argue historically that prior to the marriage they are both single with responsibilities just for themselves. However, once they're married, the wife has responsibility for the home and the children, and the husband has to provide for the family. God is present and a part of the marriage covenant. Therefore, as the relationship between the couple develops, so too does their relationship with God. The act of marriage and the resulting opportunities enables the fulfillment of a number of mitzvot. It is through their relationship and the following of the mitzvot that the couple build their relationship with their God. Significance for the community. In this area, we deal with 4 domains: building community, the Moha, community celebrations, and the need for public ceremony. Historically, as well as in modern times, expansion of the Jewish community has been an important aspect of marriage. This is at a most basic level because marriage establishes the capacity for reproduction. At a higher level, it brings together different communities through marriage. In the modern context, perspectives on marrying non-Jewish partners vary between movements. While Orthodox communities would be less likely to allow the practice, more liberal groups are more accepting under the conditions that children of the marriage are brought up Jewish. The concept of a mohar is an ancient custom which saw the groom give a gift, usually a coin, to the bride's father. It was not seen as payment for the bride, but rather it was acknowledgement that the new house begins and the bride is removed from her home. Her removal would leave that home with one less productive person to provide for all. Typically the father of the bride would then give this mohar to his daughter, but it was not a requirement. The practice of mohar acknowledges the importance of family and community, as well as the interrelatedness of the whole community. Just as in biblical times, the modern Jewish wedding ceremony is very much a community celebration. It's a point of great joy for all the reasons previously mentioned. Biblical weddings lasted several days, with great feasting and joy being hallmarks of the event. While modern celebrations do not last as long, the community's involvement is no less significant. The fulfillment of mitzvah and the future children are points of particular joy. The requirement for marriage to be a public ceremony links closely with the community aspect we just addressed. While the ceremony requires witnesses, the physical location is not prescribed. Jewish weddings can happen virtually anywhere, be it in a synagogue, outdoor location, or other appropriate space. The public element is simply a statement to say we are proud, joyous, and committing in front of God and the community. The board expects students to be able to discuss marriage in the broader context of the Jewish faith. This includes drawing relationships between significant people, practices, and ethics. In this context, students should be able to discuss areas generally, but also identify how movements within Judaism express the same faith in different ways. Within the four domains, there is a constant link to Scripture and custom, each of which informs the modern Jewish adherent. The HSC exam usually offers opportunities to present content from each area, especially in the short answer questions of Section 2. The challenge students face is expressing this content in the exam room in a holistic way. Being able to integrate this content with ethics and significant persons requires a good deal of practice in exam-style questions.